Hello, and welcome to the Point Park Esports first week of playoffs. To this time, we're doing League of Legends. If you were in the Rocket League stream, thank you for coming. But now we're in Rocket League. Hello, I am Kago, one of your casters today,
Rice.
and we will be casting for your League of Legends game tonight. So, the emotions right now are very mixed due to the unfortunate loss of the first playoff of Rocket League's season, and unfortunately meaning that we won't be able to see any more Rocket League for the rest of this season. They put up a good fight. Unfortunately, their enemy team just really took advantage of the nerves that our team had this week. So we're hoping that in this upcoming game for the League of Legends, we'll be able to avenge our team, our Point Park name, and be able to take home at least the first game of the playoffs for the League of Legends game. So we have a little bit of time to kill. So as we're waiting, we didn't really get the chance to talk too much because we went straight into it. And this is a new stream entirely, so welcome. Welcome to the Point Park Esports wonderful stream that we have essentially weekly for our Rocket League, League of Legends, and Valorant games. If you would like to see your Valorant games, both gold and green, we'll be able to see that tomorrow at 8:30. There's a chance that we might not have the green game. However, there is a definite chance we will be having the gold game, so stay tuned to watch that. And if you enjoy watching our gameplay and enjoy what we produce, you can go onto the YouTube channel and watch some more of our content there. The VODs are posted there. The VODs are posted on Twitch as well. And on top of that, we have a highlight of the Swiss games that happened prior to the qualifiers. So if you would like to watch any of those, you can come then. And also coming up will be a highlight of the qualifiers, and when we get to it in the future, we will be having a highlight of the playoffs. So if you would like to see that, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Anyways, to the main course, League of Legends. Bryce, you have anything to say about what we've seen about the League of Legends team, what we want to see more of, what we have been seeing? Because I think that might be the bigger thing that we want to talk on. What are you thinking?
I think they just gotta keep doing what they're doing. There's a reason they're undefeated, and if they can carry that into the playoffs, they're gonna go far.
I mean, he said it straight. Quite literally, Point Park's League of Legends team has been absolutely killing it on the field. And quite literally, our games have just been a wonderful wipeout. Our games have been quite short recently, which has been really amazing for it being League of Legends. But with that being said, we're hoping that this time around we keep that going. There might be a chance in the playoffs. Some people, our enemy teams have stepped up their game and have increased and grown from last. But these are all hypotheticals. Let's actually see what's going on. So now we're into the very beginning of our game. It almost seems like already a little bit of a fight here. Point Park is the blue side. We're on the bottom half of the game, of the board. And of course, the usual roster. We've got the Almighty playing top. We have Highway, Jacob playing mid, and of course, we also are gonna have a pause for a moment. So while the pause is happening, let me just finish the roster lineup here. Alongside, so on top of that, we have the bottom lane, which consists of Megan and Soap, a wonderful duo that holds the bottom lane very strong. And finally, can't forget, we have our jungler, Ribeiro. So we have all of them playing tonight, playing their usual roles, and it's going to be great. We've been playing Apologies. We've been playing wonderfully, and we're going to keep playing with this way. I hope that nothing has changed. I imagine there are a little bit of nerves since this is the first playoff of the season, as I stated before. So I'm hoping that it's not a repeat of just a few hours ago. Unfortunately, Rocket League had a lot of I guess nerves to shake off, and it unfortunately ended in our loss, which is very unfortunate. So I'm hoping that does not continue, and that does not become a trend this week.
Yeah,
I would like to.
I hope so too. Because League of Legends has done too well this year for me to want to see them leave that way. I think
I completely agree, and honestly, Rocket League did a really good job as well.
Yeah,
both of our teams today performed so well in the qualifiers. It is actually such a surprise, such a shame, and my heart is so just taut because of what happened previously in our Rocket League season.
I think what makes it worse is just knowing that we're never going to see that team again.
I know.
Like, that's the end of it. We're never going to see the same players. I mean, we still have Safe, we still have Tommy, but we're not going to see the same team we've seen for the last couple of years, the same team that won the championship just last year. We're never going to see that again.
We were hoping to see maybe at least a really tough fight before they went out. And it was such a shame. It was such a shame. And it's not fault to them. It was a very stressful match. Jimmy's really pulled up their game, which is the enemy team. And they really did play so well against us. So it's just a very unfortunate first match of the playoffs. And I hope that our upcoming Rocket League team, if we are able to find the people, and if you would like to participate, we are the esports team. We're open to newcomers. Does not matter where you come from, what you do outside. Does not matter what your major is. If you are interested, please, please, please sign up and join for the next season. And I think we're back at it into the game. So as I stated before, our roster is as was followed earlier, but now we're in the game. We're going up against New Haven this today. We've gone up against them before, obviously. This is our playoffs now. We've played up against these teams before, so it's only a matter of what we must do now, what we must change, what we must build upon, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's the main thing. We can't get too in our head about the Vegas season. Just because we won every game in the Vegas season does not mean we're going to translate that well in the playoffs.
Precisely. We need to be able to continue the way that we've been playing, and maybe hell, even perform better, because obviously we're a big target in this division. All the teams that we're going to be going up against, they see Point Park and they see we need to research them. We need to figure out what is their weakness, and we need to be able to combat that.
Yeah, and it's also important to mention that the Vegas season is a whole lot different pressure-wise than the playoffs. In the Vegas season, at least you know if you lose one, you still have a chance.
Exactly.
In the playoffs, if you lose, you're done.
Yeah,
So
and that's a lot of emotion going on through
It's
their
a
minds
very
right now.
different feeling now, and it's also just a fresh matchup. Just because you beat them early in the season doesn't mean they haven't improved. They made the playoffs too. Clearly, they had something go well for them this season, and they're going to continue trying to do what they did.
So it's already starting off pretty strong. It's there's no lane that's absolutely going great for either team of tonight's match. With that being said, I want to say right now, at least, our top lane, the Almighty, is doing quite well, holding off on the top. May be able to actually get the first blood here. Very close, unfortunately, being pushed away. smart move by our enemy top laner just pushing out, but I think they might have gotten a little bit too scary. Greedy, maybe. We were able to get another one out there. Almighty getting the first blood of the match, and this time not getting eliminated by the tower while trying to do that. Very great start for the top lane, which changes what I was going to say previously. Our top lane is looking quite well, starting off very nice and strong.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want to see in the beginning, because honestly, the top lane is honestly one of the most important things.
Ooh.
If it falls apart, everything else is gonna fall apart with it.
Exactly. It's supposed to be a very stale, maybe lane, a very strong part of a very kind of left alone kind of lane. There's not meant to really be much happening there other than, well, the top lane, Earth's fighting, duking it out essentially for eternity, while the other lanes get some sort of action, because that lack of worry of the top lane allows us to really hone in and focus on those bottom two.
Yeah, and if you think about it, that's important, because that kind of, the feeling that you're not gonna have to worry is what makes the top lane so important. If the top lane falls apart, then you're not gonna be able to focus on the other lanes.
Exactly, and especially, and we've discussed before, especially with Ribeiro, their goal here is not to babysit every lane. They can't do that. That's quite literally going from top, the furthest distance away from the top to the bottom. That's quite literally impossible to babysit all lanes. So having that guarantee that only the top lane is fine, you only need to cross the one river to be able to get between the two.
Yeah, and we've seen games both
Ooh,
ways
and Almighty
where
getting
the top
another
lane is,
elimination by
when it falls
victory.
apart, everything else falls apart after. It's usually actually the top lane where we see the first towers go, because it's always that big of a deal when that falls.
I know, and as you mentioned, we're already starting off pretty strong on that top lane. We've already taken off almost a third of its HP prior to even before the plates have fallen, which is really good. And as that's happening, of course, we've been glazing the top lane pretty heavily, but we need to recognize what's happening in the middle and bottom lane. And honestly, it's kind of a stalemate, which means that we need to do something to push ourselves through. And what may that be to change? And actually, what I was going to say, and what we're visually seeing, Ribeiro coming in to assist the mid lane, aka Highway, to be able to get the elimination on Foxfire, which is a beautiful, beautiful advantage in the mid lane, meaning that we have a great which helps us get ahead on the mid lane as well. Thank you, Ribeiro, for helping in and assisting, which gives us that edge on both top and mid lane. And what I was going to say, now with that ability that pushed away that pressure on mid lane, it gives Highway the ability to farm a little bit, clear the wave, get some XP, some money, to be able to get stronger than the lane enemy, right?
And as soon as he's good, they can then transfer to the bottom lane and just start skyrocketing from there.
Exactly, and actually, let's just talk about Almighty coming in, going up against both Victory and Foxfire, and actually making it out alive. Almost nearly a little bit too greedy there, and got caught in the crossfire between both Victory and Firefox. Foxfire. Apologies, Foxfire, but was able to get the elimination on Victory and also making it out alive without Foxfire being able to take that revenge. Looking great, looking great.
Yeah, and this is still the early game. It can still go either way, but you can kind of already see the side starting to shift, and that's usually a good sign for point party.
I completely agree. That's the genuine truth of it. We're starting off extremely well. Our early game has been going really well. Our early game used to be our struggle. Our early game has always been our strong suit. We've always been able to really pull ourselves ahead on the early game. It's just a matter of what happens in the mid game, where they start to fall off because they might not exactly know what the next choice is. Because, to be fair, what do you do after you win the lane? Give me an answer to that. It completely depends on how
there's a lot of
things that you can be doing after that. After you win your lane, you could farm for more experience. You could start scouting out, looking for space. You could help other lanes win their lane. It completely changes the tide of what happens in the late game is what you do in the mid game, which is obviously how that works. It's a build-up. It's a snowball, quite literally, and a lot of League of Legends is big on that. So you really have to think about what your next move is like constantly.
Yeah, and to Point Park's credit, this year has been especially, it's just been really great, just across the board. Like, they have just been doing really
Oh
good.
no! Oh, and really close, nearly getting eliminated there. Somehow Highway making it out alive, trying their best to win that lane, and it seems like our mid lane is struggling just a little bit. Thankfully, that last time we had Ribeiro come in to save a little bit, but Foxfire does seem to be winning that mid lane better than our player Highway, which
Yeah, and
is
it does seem
unfortunate
like
here.
New Haven went after the Dragon while Point Park went for the Void Grub. And now it looks like top lane is once again in Almighty's favor, and that tower is starting to get low already, and the hitting hasn't even dropped yet.
Does look like a misplaced from Almighty, having to pull back a little bit, take us a moment to recharge his abilities. Meanwhile, we're back and seeing a mid lane fight, a little bit here and there. There's not too much going on right now. I want to say maybe the bottom lane is very back and forth, leaning towards our team, leaning towards our team, then leaning towards their team. It's not really a one-sided thing. However, with that being said, it does look like Foxfire did get ambushed by Ribeiro, saving the day again, and we have that mid lane control again, which is a good thing. However, something that we need to mention, if Ribeiro has to be there to make that mid lane passable, then we don't have a jungler jungling.
Yeah.
So if any other lane starts to struggle, which at the moment it's not really the case, but if a lane starts to struggle, then we don't have our jungler to save, right?
Yeah, and that's why it's very important that Highlight starts to kind of farm with these opportunities.
Exactly.
Because if he doesn't end up getting strong enough, it's going to end up being an issue at some point.
Exactly. He needs to start getting strong enough to be able to handle himself on that lane, especially since being forced to kind of babysit a lane is not a very good outcome, especially in the early game, where the early game is so important to see who scales fastest, who grows fastest, because that really determines who's probably going to be that ace in the hole, that control, you know.
Well,
look at that turret already, basically gone.
Much to Highway's credit, he is the second most scaling right now of his
And
team.
I mean, to be fair, that's us saying that he needs to do that, which is completely not saying that he isn't, because clearly he is, isn't he?
Yeah, he's been doing pretty good at that, and that's good. It means he at least understands what he has to do.
I mean, to be fair, he is the coach, or like the IGL of the team, so I imagine he understands how this game functions at a very skillful manner. So it's very important that at least he knows this is what you do whenever you get that assistance. Pull back, find some enemies in the jungle to farm, get strong enough to be able to just handle the zone. Then eventually I'm hoping to see that that'll be the case, because if all of that work leads to nothing, it's fruitless, it's pointless. But on a different note here, look at Ribeiro coming in to help the bottom lane, to push up a little bit. It does look like they had some help. New Haven tried to get some help here, but it does look like Ribeiro, Soap, and Megan pulling it together and getting... Oh my goodness, and look at that. Really just feeding Ribeiro here, getting kill after kill after kill. And it looks like at the moment, he's got 5 eliminations already and 0 deaths. He's looking fantastic right now. He's he's just doing beautifully, I would say.
I mean, to be honest, the whole team's really doing well. There hasn't been a single death on Point Park's side yet, and they already had 9 kills.
That is very true. And honestly, we're looking really good right now up against New Haven. New Haven struggling to really take control over, and I think the big thing is I'm not really seeing much of their jungler coming in to make try to help the lanes, but that being said, it's a matter of what lane needs the help, right? Our top lane, their top lane is struggling very heavily, and I'm speaking in this perspective of New Haven. Their top lane is not doing so well. They've already lost a turret. Their mid lane is doing well. However, every time Ribeiro comes in there, it's not looking that well. And their bottom lane was a very back and forth. So, as a jungler, as the player that has to rotate between them, what lane would you help out?
If I was New Haven, I would help out the middle lane.
Right, the middle lane, because it's the lane that has been contested, and bottom lane looking sometimes in our favor. There's no need for us to really come in. However, if they wanted to secure it, they could have came down and assisted and really pushed that through. So it's a matter of what they decided to do, and unfortunately, I don't think they played the right hand, because I think from what I saw was more the jungler focusing on farming, getting stronger in the jungle. But right now, it does look like the jungler is coming down to help the bottom lane, which, as we discussed before, we'll see exactly how that works. But Ribeiro is down there to help out, and does look like the Almighty pulled back a little bit, but it doesn't matter. Look at this. Absolute domination. Victory gets eliminated again, being defeated this time, again and again. The Almighty looking wonderful at the top lane, just honestly, I can't even say slowly making it, forcing himself through. He is quite literally just knocking these towers down. He is a bulldozer at the moment.
Yeah, Lewis only has one down. He's already going for the second.
I know, and oh my goodness, look at this fight on the Dragon here. Point Park University absolutely tearing down New Haven, and is also going to be able to take out the Dragon, making it so that a previous Dragon New Haven was able to take from under us. We tied it up, and that looks great for Point Park. We're already looking wonderful. The the Herald has spawned, so we might need to come over there and start handling that before the enemy team starts to go for that. But at the moment, I think we're all focused on our own lane. Specifically, bottom lane is working on their turret. We have our mid lane being assisted by Ribeiro, which I'm hoping goes well for us. See how this bout goes. Does look like Foxfire, very strong player, really slowing our mid progression down a lot. And our top lane, of course, going in our favor, but it does look like the Almighty comes in there to start fighting it alongside Ribeiro, which will most likely give us the Herald, unless if they steal it. I don't think so, because it does look like Point Park gets the Rift Herald.
Yeah, and we're doing very well right now. And you can kind of start seeing it in the levels a little bit. It's still somewhat close, but you can definitely see Point Park is out escalating them.
Yeah, and so we're starting off extremely strong. That's not even a doubt right now. Point Park is doing really strong in this early game. At this point, we're now starting to fall into the mid game here, which is where we start falling a little bit, where we're not exactly sure how we play this out. So what to do is, when we're in a situation where we're now in the mid game, we've got top lane control at the wazoo. Mid lane is going okay, but we still need a couple assistants, and bottom lane has been going well for us as well. What's the next play?
Well, it looks like Ribeiro is going on a killing streak in the middle lane, and that seems to be what their next play is.
that is the next play. That's where I was trying to take it to. Exactly what you said. Taking control of the mid lane as well, because we have control over the other lanes. What's the final lane that we got to get control over? That mid lane. And it also looks like the Rift Herald is coming in to attack our top lane again, which has just been consistently being teared down by Almighty, which is looking just beautiful. At this point, it's just a one-man crew here. And then we also got the mid lane being handled because of with our other two lanes doing beautifully. We don't need to really babysit it anymore. We have control. So
this was the mid game. Already at the other side.
Yeah. Honestly, would you say that maybe perchance we just skip the mid lane and go straight to the end game here. But with that being said, New Haven still has a possibility to pull this through. And when I say that, I mean it is not really how they perform, it is how Point Park decides to play this through. Because Point Park might decide to play more passively, which does give the chance for New Haven to pull themselves out of the hole that they're in. But at the same time, if Point Park plays too aggressively, we're not scaling as fast as we could be. Which makes New Haven get the possibility to get the jump on us, might be able to single some people out, be able to at least slowly make their way back up and close that gap, which is very important to not let happen. So it's now a matter of how Point Park plays.
That's why the end game has always just kind of been controlled pressure. You want to be aggressive enough that they don't feel that they are actually having a chance to do anything, but you don't want to be so aggressive that you don't do it.
Exactly, and what we saw here was a beautiful display from Point Park, really pushing a ton of pressure along every lane, which allowed Point Park to just take so much control with, and New Haven at this point don't really have an opportunity to be able to put themselves in a better position unless if they get control of at least one of their lanes. And I honestly have to say, I think it started with the top lane being so heavily in Point Park's favor.
Yeah, and again, it just goes back to what we were saying at the beginning. If one lane falls, it just starts snowballing from there. Once one lane goes down, the next one goes with it, and then suddenly you're on the back foot.
That is precisely it. That's exactly true. So now that we have control over this entire side here, and the Baron has spawned, so it's now a matter of if we decide to go for that, it'll give us a wonderful boost in our lane attack here, and especially with where we're at right now. If we take that, I imagine we can push up onto the spawn pretty well. Bottom lane, we still have one more turret to go before we get into their spawn. Unfortunately, Soap being pulled and attacked by three New Haven players, and it's taking a long time, which means that we're looking really good. But unfortunately, it does look like Soap got ambushed, which what I mentioned before, it's a matter of if New Haven can find the opportunities to ambush and eliminate Point Park's players, which does mean Point Park, which that being said, Soap is the first death of Point Park's team.
It does seem like Point Park used that as a distraction though, because Almighty snuck in and took down one of the inhibitors.
Oh no, the Almighty for the first time and just a sudden heal! It is just unstoppable, as it says in the game. Just playing, and look at this! By himself, just pushing up the top lane, pulling way up ahead into the enemy spawn, and just already at the inhibitor.
Yeah, it seems like Almighty just wants to finish it on his own.
I know, this is immaculate to see. And now with that beautiful just top lane control, now it's a matter of what Point Park wants to do to finish this out, because it's important to understand what that means for Point Park. We can either push, we can focus entirely on making sure we get a bunch of eliminations. Unfortunately, Megan getting stuck and ambushed again, which, as I said before, it's important not to let that happen, because if you get ambushed, if you get ambushed, then even if you're so strong, you are going to get eliminated eventually, which is important. And the way to combat that is communication and what's it called? Scouting out, researching, figuring out exactly the open spots. And on a different case here, it looks like Foxfire just got ambushed by Point Park, which is the complete opposite of what New Haven wants. They don't want to be spot alone like that.
Yeah, especially now when Point Park was starting to out-level them like crazy, they just can't fight them on their own anymore. They have to work together if they want any chance to come back.
Exactly. So with that being said, we're at a point right now which is looking really good. It looks like we're going to work on this Baron before we decide to finalize our... This is probably the last step that we really need to pull before we start pushing up onto that site. But that being said, look at our bottom lane. It does look like Highway is being ambushed by the enemy team's Victory and, how do you say that, Rings of Saturn, which is very nerve-wracking for Highway, is pushed over to the turret. It's just a matter of just how Highway's going to play that, but it doesn't really matter. That's two of New Haven's players just pulled away from the big fight, which is the fight for spawn.
Yeah, it does seem like Point Park really uses those distractions well. The moment someone gets jumped, the rest of them just gun straight for the spawn. There was some damage before backing off. It does seem like they're just trying to pressure them for now to see if there's a crack in New Haven's defenses here.
Exactly. And look at this right now. They're kind of forced to play off of their own tower here, where they don't really have any other way to fight here. But they are starting to gang up and play collectively to combat the amount of power that Point Park has. But obviously, with that being said, if Point Park decides to combine together, they're most definitely stronger than New Haven.
It looks like the Almighty decided to change his focus to the bottom lane. He's going to single-handedly take that out too. And there's another one for Almighty.
And there goes the bottom lane turret. Wonderful right now. We got all three lanes controlled. Almighty being able to get out Rings of Saturn and Foxfire getting eliminated by Highway. We're now in the end game here. We're taking one turret at a time. Most of New Haven is out. I think this is when we can say that Point Park University has won the game one at a time. We take down the structures. We just gotta eliminate this sudden appearance of Victory, which is quick and quiet. Ace by the Almighty, our MVP, I would say, of this game. Actually, honestly, it's a big fight between Ribeiro and Almighty. Ribeiro playing a very strong just elimination, and the Almighty having such a beautiful control over the top lane. Overall, taking us to a victory of the first game. And look at that. Point Park University looking great. Nice work. We'll be taking a small break before we get into the next game, but we're looking great. Absolutely wonderful. What do you think?
They did it in 25 minutes. That was crazy. Yeah, they're doing great.
All right. You heard it. Simple and quick. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back in a moment, and you'll be able to see the second game and hopefully our final game. That is our match point. We'll see you in a moment. Bye-bye. Hey, we are back, and we won the first match of the League of Legends game. It's looking grand. Soon we'll be going back into our game against New Haven. We are currently up by 1, so this is our match point. So hopefully we'll be able to take it home for the first game of the playoffs. How you feeling, Bryce?
I'm feeling great, man.
Don't lie, it's so hot in this dang room. It is actually crazy. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. I had to bring a fan. It's really, really hot. And when it's really hot, there's only one thing you could do. Take something cold. And thankfully, the esports team is sponsored by a nice, wonderfully cool beverage. What do you think that might be?
Is it hiding behind the fan right now?
Well, hiding for us, visible for you. Thank you, Red Bull, for sponsoring the Point Park esports team, providing us with wonderfully very cold beverages to keep us nice and cool while the casting booth is hot as hell. Alongside RPC Video and Extron for providing us with all of the materials that we use to provide you with a wonderful stream. But thank you so much. And with that being said, let's get in to the League of Legends. So, we switched sides this time. We're on the red side for Point Park. We looked wonderful in our first game, didn't we?
We sure did.
It was a very, I would say, one-sided. We were able to get the ball rolling, and we were able to just crank it through. The snowball was huge. It was essentially impossible to break the momentum that we had. And I'm hoping to see that again this time.
Yep, we'll have to see, but if they can just do half as good as they did at the start last time, I think they'll have this one in the bag.
Very true. And in this new layout, of course, our usual setup with, as in relatively to players, we have Almighty at the top lane. We've got Ribeiro playing jungle, Highway playing Zed this time, playing mid lane, and our bottom laners, Megan and Soap. Last match, it was kind of kind of iffy for mid and bottom lane, where we weren't really making too much progress. Bottom lane especially was just back and forth, heavy on our side, heavy on their side. But top lane was very one-sided, didn't you think? Yeah. So, look.
We were told not to call Almighty the MVP, but I'm gonna say Almighty was they held down top lane the whole time. I'm just gonna put it out.
I mean, to be fair, yes, they did, and it was a very strong, very strong momentum from the top lane by the Almighty, and then of course Ribeiro just fragging out elimination after elimination. Yeah, those two playing extremely well.
I think the whole team did great, but I think Almighty just kind of held it down. That's why I consider it.
The Almighty was a very strong anchor there. And right now, what we're going to be seeing is potentially a replay of that. We are like pushed up pretty far in the top lane here. Victory struggling to really take control and fight back against the Almighty. Mid lane here this time is looking again middle of the lane, and we're kind of a little nerve-wracking because normally Highway does pretty well on their lane. So recently, in these recent games, it's been kind of one-sided. And of course, the first blood goes to, as always, the Almighty taking the top lane. Very wonderful work, Almighty. Meaning that our top lane is looking pretty good so far.
Yep, and if he can just keep pushing.
Right, maybe a replay of what happened last match where Almighty would just slowly make it. Again, I said say slowly, but just pushing his way through. Ribeiro pushing up into Rings of Saturn, almost getting an elimination. Unfortunately, gonna have to run away and then gonna retreat. Not really retreat, but pull back into the fight between Foxfire and Highway. Does look like both, unfortunately, were able to make it out alive, which does mean Ribeiro isn't going to be able to get some eliminations there. But on the other hand, it does scare New Haven. It forced both of them to retreat. Both of them were required to recall and lose some control over what they had.
Yep, and that's the key. They didn't win the exchange, but they didn't lose the exchange.
That is true. Bottom lane, we are seeing a nice push with Megan and Soap here, pushing back our enemy team. Carly and I think Honobulus Prime. I'm just gonna call him Prime. So Ferrari and Prime. I think they like that. Our enemy bottom laners there. Ooh, and Soap trying to make some play here, maybe take damage on Ferrari. Does look like, oh, and Ribeiro getting an elimination on Victory, meaning our top lane's looking phenomenal. Does look like Ribeiro came up there to help him. It's basically solidify that top lane there.
It looks like they want to repeat a last game where the top lane falls first and then they slowly just trickle down.
That is true, exactly it. It does look like we're going to be fighting up a little bit again, and mid lane is still pretty even. Not too much is happening. Our bottom lane is now matched up. It does look like it's almost as a repeat of last match where top lane was looking wonderful and our mid and bottom lane are kind of back and forth, not necessarily pushing through. So what happened last time was Ribeiro came in and assisted our mid lane and helped Highway really be able to make some progress, and then especially helped the bottom lane to really solidify that control, right?
Yeah. And we'll see if they can do that again. And really, like we said last time, I do think it really just comes down to, you know, as a jungle, you have to be able to jump between different sections.
Exactly.
And if he can just keep doing that while not falling too far behind, we should be good.
And we've been talking a lot about Point Park, obviously. We're the Point Park casters, so obviously we would be. However, we already done and heard this story before, and it's, right now at least, is seeming as a very similar kind of story. But before I get onto that, it does look like New Haven has pulled up a assistance for the bottom lane, pushing us away. Dell's getting an elimination on Megan, Rings of Saturn, and Carly Ferrari taking up Soap, taking some control over the bottom lane, and that does lead me to where I was previously going to say, what should New Haven do to combat the absolute domination that Point Park Esports was having over them last match? And that exactly is what they needed to do. They needed to play more collectively and utilize the player they had, which was Rings of Saturn playing the jungler. They need to come in and assist more often because there was a long time between Ribeiro coming down to help the bottom lane out, which meant that there was a possibility that New Haven could have came down there, or specifically Rings of Saturn coming down to assist that bottom lane and take control, which what we just saw there. It did help bottom lane get some control there, and I wonder if they actually took advantage of that, because after they take control, what is the next step? You've got to take advantage of the time you have, which means you can take take some enemies out in the jungle, clear your wave, get some control, call back, buy some items. You've got that opportunity now because you have control over the lane. And on a different note, we do look like we just slain the dragon, which is looking really nice for us already. It's a good start. Still, we're looking pretty good, but it's a little less one-sided as it was last time.
Muddy with another one in the top lane now. That's
still consistent. We're looking really nice at the top lane here. The Void Grubs have spawned, so now we have that to think about. And I think eventually Point Park might have to pull back, grab that real quick, and then come back into the heat of battle. But with that being said, what is New Haven's next move here? It kind of seems like the same thing is happening, except they did make that very crucial play, taking advantage of the bottom lane. Since it's such a back and forth battle, the introduction of Saturn really turned the tide there. But now that Rings of Saturn has left, it's back to this back and forth.
Yeah, and I think what they need to do is they need to try and replicate that. It does a little bit, do it once. It does a lot if you can consistently just do it and
exactly. The idea is you come in, you help, you take control over that lane, and you don't have to stay there. You can go back and continue doing your usual jungling, but coming in, coming out repetitively, it makes sure you have strong control over that area, right? So now it's a matter of what the next move here in the Point Park team.
And I think that's where Ribeiro does it very well. Because you could see it with him. He is in the jungle most of the time, but he does rotate quite a lot as well.
Exactly. And on a different, and speaking of the junglers, it does look like both of the junglers had a little bout. Both of them fought a little bit, but it does look like they decided to pull away. Soap being attacked by our Prime, Rings of Saturn, and also Ferrari. Soap might not be able to, but does get the chance to pull out of there. Very nerve-wracking, nearly dangerous, but what is our next step? It does look like Ribeiro is going to go over to deal with the grubs, which is nice. Does mean that we don't have our jungler to handle that. Our bottom lane has been pushed back, so we don't have that control anymore, and our mid lane has been a stalemate. It seems like our rules have switched quite a lot this match against New Haven.
Yeah, it does seem a lot more evenly matched.
Right?
You know, the economies are pretty similar, the kills are pretty similar, and honestly, neither side's really been able to pull away. So we'll see which team kind of adapts first and pulls away.
Exactly right, and does look like Point Park. Ribeiro was able to get the Void Grubs, and adding on to what you just said there, I think what we're seeing here is New Haven has adapted. They've grown and understood what they made mistakes on in the last game, and oh no, making a very aggressive play, and unfortunately getting punished for it.
Looks like
Highway coming
now.
in, trying to eliminate Foxfire, and unfortunately gets eliminated in return.
It does seem like he was able to trade it out at least, so it wasn't totally horrible.
That is true. So thankfully, that ended up being more of a net 0 for both Point Park and University of Haven. But with that being said, it's not the best outcome by far. On a different note, top lane, we do have the Almighty doing the usual anchoring, taking control over the top lane. It does look like our bottom lane is starting to get some pressure, some space on it, with Megan being able to get an elimination on both Ferrari and Prime. A nice work by her.
And this is exactly what we were waiting for. The pull away is begun. And if Point Park keeps us up, they could be out of here soon.
That is true. It was a little bit of a slower start this time, but finally Point Park's bottom lane was able to get a footing and be able to push their way through, and are now taking some nice damage up against the turret. Ribeiro coming in there to ambush Rings of Saturn there before Rings of Saturn was able to come in and try to save and push away the bottom lane. But again, we're, as we've mentioned before, it's a matter of how much control we have over the entirety of the map. We've already established the power we have in the top lane, and we've been discussing the pressure that we've been giving on the bottom lane, but our mid lane has been very middle of the road, quite literally.
Well, the good thing is, as we pull away in the top and bottom, that allows people to kind of pull up and help the middle lane, and eventually it'll snowball. That's why it's so important to try to win these lanes. Because once a few fall, they all become good.
Exactly. And on a different note, we're back to a big team battle here. We're trying to fight over for the dragon here, and Point Park University was able to get an elimination on both Rings of Saturn and Prime, which means that we're looking very nice. It's just a matter of how Point Park contains and solidifies the kill on Dragon, because New Haven could always steal it. Especially with Ferrari hiding in the back there, might be attempting to snipe the shot, especially as Jinx here. It's very nerve-wracking. I'm hoping that they don't let that happen. It does look like we look like we were able to get that.
Spotted though, and made sure they kind of
exactly
come and try anything.
So we did get that dragon, which is beautiful for Point Park. But with that being said, we did focus up on that dragon and allowed the enemy team to be able to spread out and get some control. So we're now back at this. We need to fight for control, and it does look like our mid lane has lost a lot of HP, which is not good for our pressure, especially because that gives New Haven an opportunity to be able to take control. So what do we need to see here? Our bottom lane has been looking better and better, right? To the point where I'm willing to say that Ribeiro might not necessarily have to be there.
Yeah, I think it's time Ribeiro kind of considers rotating the middle and helping.
Exactly, and speaking on a different terms, Almighty came in there and just absolutely ambushed Rings of Rings of Saturn, eliminating them and pulling back over. Might have extended a little bit too far because the victory is being left uncontested, slowly working their way through our tower. But
nice work from Highway taking out Foxfire. That was huge for Highway, and
it's very big.
That could help with the middle lane.
That might finally allow the middle lane to have some leeway, some space there, especially. And now we're in this moment where we are looking really good with kills. Our economy is great. Our experience is, it's not overwhelmingly above, but it's above. However, with that being said, the one big thing that we need to realize here is, again, that pressure that we need to consistently have against New Haven, because our previous match, we were able to have that amazing pressure on the top lane, making it so essentially, regardless of how well the other lanes performed, we had a consistent, extremely strong top lane push.
And it seems like this game they're trying to push that to be the bottom lane,
right?
Which is a little bit different, but if it works out, it will be a big difference.
Exactly. Ooh, Megan almost getting eliminated there, but she was able to get two before she was eliminated. A wonderful pick, 2 picks before getting eliminated, unfortunately. However, with that being said, our top laner, Almighty, coming back, doing some attacking against Victory, and it does look like Soap and Ferrari are just going to be there, kind of taking shots at one another. Ribeiro coming in to try to ambush Foxfire, does trap. Foxfire does get the elimination. Good mid lane, and as we mentioned before, it's a matter of taking control of that mid lane, and having Ribeiro there to help out is very crucial, don't you think?
Yeah, we did mention it, but Point Park did get the
Herald?
Yeah, Herald. I don't know why I was slipping.
Thanks for catching that. It does look like we were able to take a lot of hit points off on the mid lane tower, and we just got a glimpse of it. We are taking a beautiful amount of HP off the top lane tower. I wonder what the bottom lane tower looks like for us in terms of... Oh, there it is. We are also looking pretty nice on the bottom lane, and I think adding up all the things that have happened so far in the 17 minutes of our gameplay, it does look like Point Park is on the winning end here, because we've been able to take out more HP on the enemy turrets. Speaking of which, we're going to be able to... Exactly.
Middle lane, but decided to go to the bottom lane.
Which is a little silly, but... that does mean we're going to be pushing up on the bottom lane. Might be able to get not 1, but 2, maybe. There's the Rift Herald, might be coming in there to be able to knock out that turret. Does get stunned because Ferrari's there. Sorry, Rings of Saturn is there just kind of fighting for their life, essentially. Rift Herald almost there. It got a hit off, gets the second hit off, and a turret is down on the bottom lane. That's 2 turrets down of the game. Our first 2 turrets specifically, and 18 minutes in, where Point Park is up ahead by $14,000.
Yeah, and it's 18-5 in kills as well. Point Park is starting to really pull ahead, and this is what we've been talking about all game. You know, that slow scale where they're starting to outscale the other team.
Exactly. So now we're starting to see the fruits of their labor. They have been slowly figuring out the opportunities they could take. Ribeiro wonderfully just eliminating Foxfire, almost getting eliminated by the turrets that Foxfire placed down, but is able to heal off by the plant here. And on a different note, it does look like the dragon spawn, so I think Point Park is going to focus on dealing with that. Highway playing mid lane, and with an empty lane, sorry, apologies, which should have been an empty lane, but it does look like a lane switch has occurred for Ari playing mid lane here. And again, now we're seeing New Haven trying to scramble up some sort of concept. They are going to fight for the dragon and see if we're going to win this. This is a big moment to see what's exactly, if New Haven's got a chance. Starting off not so great for New Haven, getting 1 elimination, 2 eliminations, and that's 2 eliminations for Megan, and an elimination for Soap. Wonderful work, bottom laners. And Unstoppable Almighty getting the elimination on Victory. That's nearly a full wipeout. Foxfire just hanging out in the mid lane, kind of going up against the usual Highway. I wonder if there's going to be another elimination for Point Park. That's a really good place for Point Park. That really set them up.
Yeah, now they have 3 dragons, so they are really starting to pull away.
That is true. And as I said before, that was a big fight. That was an important fight for New Haven. If they won that, they had a very great comeback. That's an opportunity for them to really stop the momentum of the ball. And it does look like Foxfire's nearly eliminated there. Almost got eliminated. Does look like he got assistance by his teammates to force Highway to pull back. But that being said, now we have this amazing advantage. We have the top lane and bottom lane turret taken down, but our mid lane is kind of struggling a little bit. So I think Point Park is now going to focus on trying to alleviate that a little bit, but I know for a fact New Haven is there to stop that from happening.
Yeah, and you can kind of see it as a lot of Point Park players are starting to rotate to the in the middle lane. Looks like there might be a big fight about to happen there.
I agree. But with that being, it might also be New Haven's a little bit nervous because they lost one team fight. They're probably going to lose it again. So they need to be strategic, be smart about it. Instead of maybe a team fight, they pick off one at a time, you know?
Yeah, and that's kind of the place they're at now because they're starting to get outscaled. They are
starting to get outscaled, exactly. And Foxfire getting caught up by themselves, almost getting eliminated. However, unfortunately, does get protected by Rings of Fire. And on the opposite end of B, and speaking of which, Highway was cornered there, ambushed by themselves. 3 of New Haven came there to save it, and Foxfire was eliminated in the process, so it wasn't entirely the worst thing for Point Park, but Highway did get eliminated there.
And while that was happening, Megan was able to take down one of the turrets. Once again, they're using that distraction to their advantage, and Point Park does that so well.
They do that very often and very well, exactly.
They'll have one player getting kind of ganged up on, but yet they still somehow progress forward.
Exactly, and I think that's a big thing to understand because, of course, it's going to happen eventually where an ambush happens because it's better to if you're strong, if you're the stronger team, there's no point in playing together well, it's important to play together, but you don't have to literally be with each other all the time because you're able to fend off yourself. But with that being said, it leads you to get ambushed. But with the lack of players that are required to ambush, it's a lot easier to do other things, which is what Point Park excels at. They take advantage of that, as you said. So that really enables them to take a lot of space, a lot of damage on other turrets, take control.
And you really have to think about, like, how are they communicating this? You have to think that as soon as one gets ambushed, they're immediately sending out that message to the
Exactly. It does look like Point Park's going to pull back and deal with the Baron here real quick. Actually, I am seeing a kind of bunching up by New Haven in that bottom, or that left jungle. It does look like Highway's coming in there to stop that, though. Might be able to get an elimination on Prime before leaving, but I think smartly left because Highway was pulling pretty far into the enemy territory there. Exactly. Looks like a full, almost an entire team of recall. So we're looking pretty good there. Does look like we're seeing Almighty switching kind of from the top lane to the bottom lane control here. We're going to see exactly how we're going to have to do this now. Ribeiro just kind of dealing with the jungle as usual, and we're back to what our usual playstyle is. Really kind of making sure our control consists, and we have to stay. Actually, let me reword that. Let me change what I was going to say. That's wrong. Mid lane's looking actually like an aggressive play here. We're taking some push here, and it looks like Ribeiro pushed out to try to deal with the awaiting New Haven team. But I'm worried that, actually, never mind. Soap is in there to assist. Ribeiro might be able to get one. Megan actually taking one out. Rubio taking another. And we get an Almighty comes in to eliminate Firefox. Foxfire! Not the browser. Not the browser. Okay. And it looks like we're pushing onto the site. Onto the spawn a little bit. We are able to get elimination. Ribeiro pushing very aggressively. Might be getting eliminated there. Does get eliminated because of pushing a little bit too aggressively to get that elimination. But with that being said, we are able to get the inhibitor. One of the turret in mid lane, and we're looking really nice. Megan and Soap getting the inhibitor as well, and we're going to push back.
You're going to have to excuse us. The heat's really getting through.
It really is. I keep saying the wrong words specifically for Foxfire. Your name is cool, but I also want to say Firefox, and that's not what it is. All right, another turret is down. Looks great for Point Park. I think that actually was taken down by the minions. And then Megan being in elimination there. Actually, we're starting to see a really strong rise from Megan here with 11 eliminations. I think is the, I would say, the next, the really star player right now, really being able to come in and get a lot of just nice picks off, you know?
Yeah, it's already big its second semester, and already you can see how much the player has grown.
I know, right? And again, now we're back at this fight for the dragon, which will set us to the 4th dragon, giving us a wonderful buff here. Ring of Saturn playing the jungle, trying to figure out some sort of way for them to get some points, because they are behind by a heavy amount. However, there is a possibility they can pull it back. They don't have a lot of pressure, but their pressure comes from finding their ones, finding that one pick that they can take. So, because as you can see, very, very, very apparently Victory fighting there against just the one Soap could barely do any damage. Megan getting an elimination, finishing off Victory, and now we're taking a grand control over the spawn. And I think this is when we start taking essentially control over it. Almighty getting another elimination. Highway pushing essentially onto the enemy spawn here. We're just basically slapping the turrets. And this is essentially a big moment to say, I think if everything goes well, another turret down, another turret getting elimination after elimination.
Yeah,
and I think, and look at the amount of minions, this I would say is the end. And it does look like Point Park University does get the W for their first playoff match, which means they get to continue into the semifinals for Point Park Esports. Thank you so much for watching a wonderful game of the League of Legends. Great work, Point Park University, and it was a an amazing attempt by New Haven. It was a close game. What would you say?
Another big win for Point Park, and we're getting closer and closer every day.
That's what I meant. Yes, we're getting like Point Park's League of Legends team has grown tremendously from the last season.
Yeah, we have gotten further than last season.
We've gotten further. We've gotten stronger. We've played so well now, and it is actually immaculate to see. Our teamwork is beautiful. Our playstyle is wonderful, and I honestly think, I think they might deserve, if we can get one, an interview. So we'll take a moment to break, and if not, I would like to say goodbye. Thank you for watching so much. We have another game later. Tomorrow we have a game for Valorant, Gold and possibly Green. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'm Kago.
Bryce.
And if there is a possibility for an interview, we will. But thank you so much for watching. We'll be back later, or this is the end of C. Thank you so much for watching. Yep, we're back. Sorry if anybody has left. Sorry to those who left, but we're back. And as I promised and I hoped for, we get an interview with a player from the League of Legends team. This is actually really exciting because we don't usually get to have an interview because unfortunately, and this is not a diss. The League of Legends team usually ends up losing, but we've been playing. The League of Legends team has been playing extremely well this season.
Don't say usually. When I've played, we've won every game.
Okay.
Last season
So
didn't happen.
last semester was incredibly different from this semester.
We made the playoffs
And-
and didn't go far after that.
And I think one of the big things that I'd like to ask of you is exactly what goes in your like mind, like what goes through your mind, especially with this season, the difference from last season and this season.
What goes through my mind? That's kind of hard because the last game all I was really thinking is press R on them.
PR trained, PR.
Normally, my focus is just don't die.
Right.
Because it sounds really simple, but in League, every death is really important because it's
It
time
is
you
very
spend.
true.
It's time you spend off the map. So that just the less you die, it sounds really simple, but it means a lot to actually take it to heart, to play for your life, to play to not be dead unless it really brings value. It means you'll get more farm, which means you'll get more items, you'll be more powerful. And that's the number one thing that wins you games.
I think that's like honestly mentally that makes a lot of sense, especially now that I've learned the game a lot more, and especially since right now what we've been seeing is a lot more value in every moment that Point Park players have like what they do.
That's one thing. We've been trying to work on just playing with a lot more intention. behind what we
Exactly.
do.
And we can really see that in the casting booth, especially with the games and the consistent win streak that we've had. Knock on wood. Hopefully, we continue this into the semifinals, and of course, hopefully into the finals. But let's talk about this game against New Haven. The first game is very heavy on spotlight on both Almighty and Ribeiro, especially with Ribeiro's wonderful, just multiple frags and all that.
I want to say the number one thing that won us that game is the combo between Ribeiro and Soap. They combined their ults perfectly. We had so many team fights where Gale Soap would hit a 4-man, 3-man stun, and that would lead to Ribeiro jumping in, hitting his spin, and catching the entire enemy team, and then we just win.
I'm glad that you, as a player and very much definitely more knowledgeable about this game than I am, was mentioned that we definitely missed that. But that's actually a very cool thing to now know that. And I understand the how great Gale as a player is, but visually, as a person that also doesn't really play the game, we don't really understand how crucial the support character ends up being
That's
sometimes.
one thing. The support kind of always goes underappreciated.
Mhm.
Obviously, a huge part of that game was the fact LeBron absolutely destroyed his lane.
Exactly.
Like, obviously, all the credit in the world to LeBron. But Gale did just as much in that one, and then Lucas followed up on it perfectly. Me and
Exactly.
Jacob were just there to do extra damage.
Exactly. But that's the first game. Let's talk about the second game where you fragged out. I think how many kills did you end up finishing with?
I want to say 12.
12,
I had the
I
most
think
damage
so.
in the lobby.
You absolutely went balls to the wall. It was beautiful to see. We were able to explain exactly what your mindset was there and what happened there.
Well, they let me play Veigar, which historically has gone very well. All I'm saying, 100% win rate on Veigar. All I'm
Right.
saying. But with that, the goal was just, we know we win. Gale hits a Q on them, which stuns.
Right.
And that means I stun. We do so much damage.
Right.
And then it snowballs out of control. And we did such a good job zoning them off minions. So
Exactly.
I don't know if
yes.
you saw this. Earlier in the game, I was up, I want to say 70 CS, or minion score, on the enemy Jinx, which
Mhm.
meant I had basically a full item advantage on them. So they just could not interact with me without getting one shot.
Right.
So we just did a really good job zoning them off XP, zoning them off gold, and then punishing them when they tried to go for it because we just have so much pressure.
Yeah, and it eventually just snowballed into you just consistently, essentially bullying every player
It
on the
snowballed
enemy
to the
team.
point where I could walk into their base, sit there for like 5 seconds, and the second one walks up, I can one-shot them. That's
Exactly.
what
It
happens
was
when Veigar gets so fed and they don't have enough magic resistance. You just kind of win.
it was pretty impressive to see that, and I am so happy that we were able to see such a wonderful game tonight. I think I would consider this as a great revenge moment. Unfortunately, with the Rocket League loss, I think this overwhelming W.
We got to
really-
do it for them now.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Win the season for our Rocket League team.
Hey, that's the goal. Point Park Esports winning it all this season. New York Knicks winning it all this season.
Okay. We're starting it. Okay, cut it. Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking in the interview. This is actually amazing to see an interview from the League of Legends team. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Kago, one of your casters. Of course, we had Bryce, our other caster, and our player known as Megan in the game. And
My name's Lynette.
thank you so much for watching. It's been an honor. Goodbye.